What's happening, everybody? Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. We had a really fun, exciting, entertaining practice between the Packers and the New York Jets on Wednesday. You could just tell there was a different feel to it. Of course, the Jets and their, some of their media and maybe a small smattering of Jets fans were there. There seemed to be more Packer fans, seemed to be a bit more intense. The play on the field was much more intense. The hitting was a little bit harder. It was all really fun. There were a ton of team periods. Practice was the longest of training camp so far for Green Bay, and it was insanely hot. And I mean insanely hot out on the field. Wasn't expecting that. Definitely got some little bit of sunburn going on from that, but really fun and exciting practice. So let's get to all the news and notes from practice as well as my observations. First of all, from the really good news category, Rashan Gary returns to practice. So again, anytime you have maybe like a lingering sort of hamstring or anything like that, you just don't want to see that for a player like Gary. So the fact that he was back practicing is a very good sign that he's ready to go and that hopefully this isn't going to be something that lingers. So that was good. On the flip side, 4 Packers that were not practicing: Jordan Love, Chris Blair, Vernon Scott, and Juwann Winfree. And this is getting to the point now for Winfree that it's so disappointing because, I mean, mini camps, OTAs, started training camp. He was playing so incredibly well. And then to have the injury that keeps him out of the first preseason game, a couple weeks now of training camp, super disappointed for him because he was definitely probably the surprise player up until that point in all of training camp. So up until the point he got hurt. So hopefully he can get back sooner rather than later. He probably needs to get back sooner rather than later, but definitely disappointing that he can't come back. And then, on a similar note, Vernon Scott, right, just came off a fantastic game, this past week against the Texans. And, while I don't think he's, on the bubble, like that safety group is insanely deep. And you've got guys like Christian Uphoff and Henry Black and, of course, Innis Gaines, like all starting to make names for themselves. So, Will Redmond, core special teams guy, of course, Amos and Savage. So all of those are in the mix. So you'd love to see Vernon Scott be able to kind of, quote unquote, Mike McCarthy stack success here and, kind of, string really good practices together, but unfortunately did not play after his big game there. So again, hopefully he can get back sooner rather than later. One other injury news or note, I guess, is A.J. Dillon also did not practice in team drills. There were a lot of returning players who did not practice in team drills. Aaron Jones still wasn't participating in team drills, so that definitely left the running back group a little bit thin. As far as starters went along the offensive line in team drills, we got to see Royce Newman as well as John Runyon Jr. starting with the guards. So a little bit of a new group, although Newman had been there the last couple days now, and Runyon's been kind of in and out. But Ben Brady and Lucas Patrick running with the twos. We saw Lucas Patrick get some work with centers as well. So those, I think, were kind of the major noteworthy stuff before we get into actually the plays that happened in practice. As far as how practice was set up, it was a ton of team drills. And then really the only other thing that the Jets and Packers did together was team drill, team drill, team drill, team drill. And then they would do like this one-on-one special teams drill, which was like a gunner and like a punt return blocker that were trying to go up against one another. It was kind of a fun drill, and the players really got into it. So that was fun, but it was basically team drills, that special teams drill, team drills, that special teams drill, 2-minute drill, and that was it. But it went for a really long time, and again, made for a very entertaining practice to say the least. So, but how that worked is, from a media standpoint, there's basically 2 fields kind of going on, and you basically could choose one of them. So not that you care about this, but the middle portion of the practice field on the media side is closed off where you can't stand there. So it's basically you had to pick one or the other. So on this day, I picked to watch the offense. On Thursday, I'll probably watch the defense, at least as of plan right now, but I'm going to give you much more offensive notes today than defensive notes because that's what I was focusing in on. It was kind of an interesting day for the Packers offense. They started off really struggling. So like poor run, And then it was like a little flip pass that went nowhere to DeGuara. There was a little pass to the outside that went nowhere. There was a couple disconnect, plays, another poor run. Like just the offense took a little bit of time to get going, especially from a run game standpoint. And then all of a sudden you saw the run game starting to take off a little bit. Some big runs from Kylan Hill. Dexter Williams had a couple nice runs. Patrick Taylor had a really nice run in team drills where he just, he kind of did a cut inside, then a cut to the outside, and then exploded up the field. That was a really good one. But it was interesting in the fact that the run game really struggled. And then there was a session where the run game came on very, very strong. There was also a session in the middle of practice where Rodgers was just carving up the Jets, hitting Davante Adams and numerous players on just quick slants and basically getting the ball anywhere that he wanted to. And then there was a session a little bit later where Aaron Rodgers went cold, or at least him and his receivers were not on the same page. There were, I think, 3 different plays where Rodgers and Adams were just not on the same page at all. And then there was another play where, Rodgers and Lazard were not on the same page. There was a short throw, a one-hop throw from Rodgers to Tonyan. So things went a little bit cold in the middle of practice. I think this is going to be perfect for the Packers when they go back and look at this tape. I think, and really for the Jets too, I think they're both going to be able to say, here were some good things that happened. Here were some bad things that happened. Here's some things that we need to get cleaned up. Here are some things that went well that we can kind of continue to use moving forward. So I think this was overall really good for both sides to kind of each have some wins and each have some losses. So it kind of gives you room to show the good tape as well as like, this sucks and you need to do better, right? So I think the coaches had to have been pleased with getting a little bit of each of that, so they have coaching points, both good, bad, ugly, and different moving forward. As far as Rodgers and Adams goes, I think it's interesting. This is pure conjecture on my part, but you see Rodgers and Adams, like there are moments where those two are very Jordy Nelson-esque and having, kind of that ESP where they're just so insanely on the same page. But you also see moments, even during the season from time to time, but definitely in practice, where they're just seeing the same thing 2 totally different ways. And my conjecture on this is, one, Davante Adams is so unlike any other wide receiver that, frankly, that I've seen play football. Like, he sets up corners in a totally different and unique way. It's like, it's almost offbeat, where every other receiver is on beat. This is what we're doing. He almost thrives offbeat and just kind of getting them to step one way and he's going the other. Like, just when you as a corner think that you have Adams, it's exactly when he has you. So he's so unique and diverse as a wide receiver that I think sometimes when Rodgers and Adams are reading the same play, like Rodgers is seeing it, I think sometimes through the eyes of a receiver, but Adams is so much more than that, and he sees it a totally different way. And sometimes when, Rodgers is expecting Adams to cut it outside, Adams sees a huge opportunity to cut it inside. It's not necessarily that either of them are wrong, but you see them on just differing paths from time to time. And I think that's where that disconnect can be. And I think the difference between Nelson and Adams, again, this is pure conjecture on my point, is I think to an extent, Rodgers and Adams are both just alphas where they're seeing the play and they know what they need to do to win that play. And they're both have that mindset. And the vast majority of the time it works out the right way, right? Because they're both seeing things the same way. But every once in a while, again, because Adams is who he is, he just is going to do his thing and hope that Rodgers is on the same page, and it doesn't always connect. I think the difference between Nelson and Adams there is, I think Nelson knew how to read it, but I think he more than anyone knew what Rodgers was going to do on that play. Not necessarily what was the best route to run on that play, like I think Adams does. I think Nelson knew more of like, all right, I think in this situation, I might do an in-breaker, but like I know Aaron and he's throwing the outbreaker, so I'm going to go out even though the read on this for me would normally be in. And like just Nelson and Rodgers had that innate ability. And again, from time to time, you see that with Adams and Rodgers, but you will see them disconnect a little bit more. We saw 3 disconnections in practice today. It's exactly what you want to happen in practice. I guarantee you Rodgers and Adams go back, watch the tape, get on the same page, and it won't be an issue moving forward. And that's why you do this type of stuff. And I think that type of stuff is going to be invaluable for both Rodgers and Adams. So a couple other things here. So the red zone offense for the Packers scored on both of their drives to end the team activity. I thought that was a really huge takeaway. Both Rodgers and Benkert leading their offenses to touchdowns. The Packers defense fared much better in the 2-minute drill than the Jets defense did. You also had MVS with a really big day. He had a quick slant over the middle. He had a deep ball on a 9 route that was contested that he made a great adjustment and catch on. And then you had the touchdown in the 2-minute drill to cap things off, worked his way wide open. I don't know if it was a bust or was something MVS did, but gets wide open. Rodgers finds him and they connect for the game-winning, touchdown in the 2-minute drill. So really, really big day for MVS. As far as Kylan Hill goes, he got a ton of time with the ones. So as I mentioned before, there's, in my opinion, very clear evidence that Kylan Hill is going to be the number 3 running back. With Aaron Jones out, with A.J. Dillon not doing team, or I guess I should say with both of them not doing team, they were both practicing, but neither of them were doing team drills. Kylan Hill was the number 1 running back. And I think the thing that was most impressive is Rodgers had full trust in him. He knew what he was doing. There were a couple plays where Rodgers looked to him on his first read, had full trust in him, and he made another just fantastic run on the day. And he just glides. He's so fun to watch. And again, I'm hoping the offensive line blocks a little bit better for him against the Jets than the running lanes or lack thereof that he got against the Texans. But man, what a steal so far in the 7th round. Again, we don't crown anyone until the games count, and we'll see what happens then with Kylan, but he's been spectacular in practice. Other notes, a lot of thumps in practice. So this was like the Packers you could see were, more of basically playing 2-hand touch for the last few weeks. These were thumps. You could hear them. They were physical, not tackling, not trying to hurt a guy, but physical thumps. Like there was a huge degree of difference in the contact between the normal Packer practices and what we were seeing against the Jets. One big hit, Jared Davis absolutely laid out Josiah DeGuara. Devontae Adams got in Davis's face and there was a little bit of a verbal spat and things like that. But the Jets were great. They took Jared Davis right off the field and, didn't let him. I don't know when he got back on, but they knew right away that that's not what they were trying to accomplish, and they took him out, and it was what it was. DeGuara was fine, so no harm, no foul, I guess. Easy for me to say, but that was the main one. There was one other one where I think it was Sternberger had a catch over, or like a pass over the middle, and whoever the safety was laid him out pretty good, and the pass dropped incomplete. Not maybe quite as egregious, but definitely a hit that let Sternberger on the ground. So, but I think overall, I think those are things that in moderation you don't mind seeing. You want to see some of that contact and see how players respond, but definitely some bigger hits and thuds on the day. Injury news, Dennis Kelly and Devin Funchess both left with injuries. I couldn't really tell what happened to Kelly, but looked like he limped off, went to the Hudson Center. Apparently, I didn't see this, but Rob Demovsky tweeted out that at the same time, Devin Funchess was carted off the field. It sounds like just kind of carted to the side and then he was trying to walk it off. But I will say, I give Devin Funchess a lot of credit. He's been fighting stuff for 2 weeks now, playing in the games. He left the game, to go to the locker room at a point. Like, you can just tell he's far from 100%, but he knows that he's battling for his job right now, and he's doing everything he can to play through it. But sounds like he pulled up a little bit with some sort of hamstring or something. They carted him off. He tried walking it off, is what I heard. We'll see. It sounds like he could really use some time off, frankly, and my guess is he probably gets that on Thursday, and we'll see if he's ready to play on Saturday. Packers had a lot of screenplays. This is something that we saw with the Kylan Hill touchdown against the Texans. They had a lot of success with it against the Jets. Aaron Rodgers had a phenomenal touchdown pass to Robert Tonyan on a corner route, beat C.J. Mosley on the play, and just, great anticipation on the throw where he threw it before Tonyan broke. Tonyan got his head around, and of course, because he catches everything, caught the ball, and just really nice touchdown play there. And then one other interesting note on offense, Aaron Rodgers actually noted in his post-practice press conference that Josh Myers had a really tough day, that just mentally wasn't on the same page. And he went out of his way to compliment Myers for everything up until this point, saying he's been really great in camp and just mentally strong and things like that, but did go out of his way to note that today was not one of those days for Josh Myers. And interesting, if you have Royce Newman starting at right guard eventually, you could have two rookies, center and right guard right next to each other opening day against the Saints. We'll see if that happens or not, but it's definitely a real possibility at this point. I'm going to go through the defensive stuff quick because these are things that I saw tweeted out and reported. Again, I was watching offense. I wasn't seeing defense, but it sounds like Preston Smith had a really great day against Mekhi Becton. I also noted that Preston Smith, Eric Stokes, and Kingsley Keke all had sacks in the third down drill. Kingsley Keke apparently had 2 sacks and should have had a third per Bill Huber. Jonathan Garvin had a sack. Jair Alexander had 2 red zone pass breakups in the red zone drills. I believe Jets beat writer, someone who covers the Jets, Brian Costello, noted that Zach Wilson was sacked unofficially 7 times total on the day and was only 12 of 23 throwing the ball with 2 drops. So really good day for the defense. And I think that was kind of the big takeaway that I had. It sounds like the Packers defense was really dominating the Jets offense for the vast majority of the day. Now, Zach Wilson, rookie quarterback, not the greatest overall stable of weapons in the world for the Jets, but that's exactly what you still want to see from the defense, is a solid overall performance, holding in the red zone. I think Huber also wrote that there was like a stretch of like 15 or 17, something like that, like red zone plays, and the Packers only allowed 1 touchdown, and it was, second stringers. I think he said KB and Ento gave up the touchdown on the play, but overall, really great day from the defense by all accounts, and offense had its ebbs and flows, ups and downs, but I think the big thing is you saw progression throughout the day. You saw moments where Rodgers was carving up the defense. You saw the running game get on track through the middle. The screen game was working well. And then really the 2-minute drills. Packers offense comes up big in both. And the Jets first team offense was unable to convert. So all good stuff there. I'm really looking forward to Thursday's practice against the Jets as well. Should be another very entertaining practice. Definitely going to wear sunscreen this time. But that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for joining me. Always appreciate you guys. I'll be right back here tomorrow. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.